Hey everyone, it's me, Nightmare Planet. So today begins a new day, brand new and fresh. So what am I doing? I'm starting a new career commentary series. Now, for most of you asking, why make a commentary series? You're not like some big YouTuber, and yes, you hurt my feelings. But that's besides the point. So here, what I'm trying to do here is show what these stories actually mean. As you know, I am a horror content creator. I make scary stuff, and when I really don't want to make scary stuff, I make something related to scary sometimes, but mostly something pretty funny or amazing or wonderful. And those are the rare exceptions when it's like, you need something else, like a spice, like a salt, like the pepper. You can't just have the meat or the chicken. You can't. It's not going to taste as good. So what I'm doing here is basically explaining and diving into like an analysis series on what these videos mean and what are they supposed to do and how they were made. And with our first video, it's an old one, a legendary one, and started my entire channel. Alignment Chapters 1, the original creepypasta that I made. So, Alignment Chapters was supposed to be an analog horror series. It was never supposed to be a creepypasta. It was in starting development in June and came out on July 2nd, 2023. So, during this period, I was making it, but I wanted to be analog horror until I realized that analog horror, especially the ones I wanted to look up to, like the Walter Files and Via Carnes, were high quality. Like they cost budget, and I had no idea how to make it any type of analog horror. So what I decided to do was that I decided to make analog horror, but in hidden videos in these creepypastas. And Alignment Chapter, I transformed it from an analog horror series to a creepypasta, which is why that Alignment Chapter 1 and 2 are so close to each other right here. Is because these two stories were made basically at the same time. I just split it in half, like right down the middle, right here, like as you can tell, making us two parts. And there's a reason why until the third part later down the line that we wouldn't really see another Alignment Chapter series. Wow, it has been a while. So today we're gonna be watching the first one, analyzing it, and truly diving deep into it. So this first video is gonna be either super interesting or super boring, depending on who you are. I'm just saying a fact. It's the first Alignment Chapter series. It's only 8 minutes long. It's pretty short, and there's a lot of problems that would not be fixed until later down the line. Especially with this one. This one fixed a lot of it, but these first three here was like the very beginning. So get ready. Here we go.
This Tuesday night began as I errant night would. I was in my office when my partner barged in. Sir, you need to see this. Here's my partner, George.
George. Yeah, we didn't really do much with him looking back on it now. So when I was making this character, I just wanted it to be a character that would give the news to Terrence what's going on in the Dem house. I never really thought him through, honestly. Remember, it's my first creepy story. It's not gonna be S tier level, okay? It's not gonna be superb, legendary. It's more like the basis of what's gonna come.
But currently he's new, so he doesn't know much. I say to him, what is it, George? He tells me there's a case about two kids breaking inside an old abandoned house on Cotton Belt Road. Suddenly I got a headache, and then George.
Fun fact, I got Cotton Belt Road from going on Google Maps and looking at Arkansas. I needed a place that I wanted to be a real place, some street in the middle of nowhere near Arkansas. No, in Arkansas. If you do live there, congratulations, you're in my story, but I've never been there, and I don't know if it's actually just. It looks green on Google Maps, but I legit don't know if it's actually green or there are no houses there. So let me know if it actually is. But that's you could be the main character.
Went up to me and asked if I were okay, which I replied yes, let's go out walking off. It was about 3:35 a.m. when we got there. It took a while for us to get there, considering it was almost on town. And then when we got there, an old house looking like a house from the
I
19.
was making the first ever videos, especially these two, the hidden video and this one. I didn't know how static worked. Green screen is only something I learned recently. Like I had videos before this where it was actually just a green screen, but you couldn't tell it was the green screen. Like it wasn't like built in properly, Like it wasn't put in the right spot. it wasn't activated basically. So there, before that, I had no idea how static worked. So this was the closest thing I had to static.
40s or 50s. As I stepped closer to the house, I could tell the place was rotting and decaying, like the life has been sucked out of it.
Barking. He demands food, but I shall not give him food, for he already ate earlier today. So I shall not give him the food he desires.
As I got to the house door, I barged the door open.
Yeah, when I first showed my family and friends that part, yeah, they got scared because they were playing on the TV. So it just blasted that like a nuclear bomb.
As I opened it, everything in there I could tell was decaying, sick and broken. It makes sense after such a long time. I told George to look around the house to find the kids. I told him to look upstairs as I looked down here. I first checked the living room. There was a couch there, and old toys on the floor, dust everywhere. And the place had a rotten smell to it. As I continued walking, the headache came back
Ah,
harder this time.
yes. The evolution of the headache. So if you ever watched the Alignment Chapter series up to this point, you would know that these headaches, and it begins right here. So this part of the story has been planned out since the beginning. I specifically made it that it would specifically evolve to the point where it would just go from headaches to actual struggles to visions to hearing these voices just by entering the house. And if you notice, the more times you get to the house, the more these visions get stronger and stronger and stronger because it's the call. It's the call from the pupas, Pupa. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I did make the name. These are calling to him, especially Casey.
I almost wanted to scream, but I decided to focus on what was important. As I walked further, I noticed an old TV standing in the middle of the room. I could tell it was one of those black and white TVs from a long time ago. Each time I heard a creaky noise as I approached the kitchen, and I saw it in a mess of dishes everywhere with cockroaches on the floor. I realized there was a calendar here of 1965 because the last people who owned this house went missing that year. We had a case on it for a while but never found them. Since then, the place has been abandoned. I brought my camera with me to show proof of where they could have gone.
Like I said,
The only
creepypasta, not analog horror, so it's not supposed to be like this. So if you're asking, wait, if you had a camera, why we're not seeing found footage? It's analog horror series.
owners and the kids, but I was beginning to run out of memory, so I put it away for now. Suddenly, I heard a loud banging noise coming from near the door nearby, and it got louder and louder. I had to go check what was inside, and it sounded like a
Okay,
little girl crying for help in there.
okay.
So I
Now
barged the door.
this is hands down one of my favorite parts of looking back at this very first video. Even from this point, identify that scream, even though it's just a sound effect. So what that really means is a lot. I know, right? It's crazy. Especially if you watch the series now, it's clear that I have two things. Mainly one. One, the last one, the later half. I cannot spoil, for that's gonna be coming up in a later video. But everyone's thinking that this is Casey. This is the girl, Terrence's little sister, Casey, screaming out for help, which aligns so perfect. It's such a good foreshadowing. Looking back on it, I can't believe I added that sound effect. If I never added that sound effect, it would have been normal, but I would have never ever noticed that. Like, I knew this from the beginning. I knew Casey was the monster. So, crazy.
Door open. I found a playroom filled with toys all over the floor, like an old
Okay, when
changing
I was
face
doing that,
clown
I had
game
to
on the
research what old 1950 board games looked like, and that was the only one I found that looked realistic. Like, Casey would play with that.
floor with pieces all over it. And then I found a page called The End. It seems like a little kid drew this. You can see how poorly drawn this is. But the first page says, I am
Casey,
and
Didn't
it's my
say that
friend,
right.
Jordy.
I said Cassie is Casey.
It shows a little girl next to a boy, and then they're just next to each other. I feel like I've heard that name before, Casey. Maybe an investigation
Foreshadowing.
case. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't there when it happened because I went into the forest about 10 years ago. I just keep looking for stuff. But then suddenly I heard a loud banging noise over and over and over again. Like someone was stomping their feet and they were dragging something as well. So I decided to hide and catch it off guard. But I was not prepared for what I was about to see. Some bag dripping was
So
dragging across the floor.
it begins here officially. How do I explain this? Imagine you make videos, right? Like let's just say you do, and you need to edit the voice and the sound effect and the volume. One of the most biggest problems I had, was especially at the beginning of the creepypastas, was the volume. If I'm gonna be fully honest here, a lot of these old videos, especially the re-uploaded ones, have terrible volume. Especially looking at it now. I can barely hear what's going on in the background, all the sound effects and the music and all this stuff. I can barely understand what they're saying. So looking back on it, this is the reason why I wanted to make this series. Because there's parts of this that's important, but I never actually knew what was the problem till later on. And I slowly adapted more and more to getting better at fixing this issue. But just like I said at the beginning, I was really bad at it. I had no idea how to properly volume it up. It wasn't until Wake Up and Alignment Chapter 3 that we began actually understanding how to move the volume better and not as bad. And we learned more how to increase the audio of the recording more than the audio of the music and the sound effects. And by what I mean me, we is actually me because no one else makes these videos besides me.
Thing dragging it. It had a black, skinny shape, but spiky ends on its limbs. It reeked of rotten flesh. It had a mask that looked like a little girl's face, with blank, empty eyes and sharp teeth. It had a bag head, or I think bald head, but they were fingers on its head appearing, but like hair on its head. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in total fingers on its head as it dragged on the floor to the window. But I noticed that the bag was moving still, meaning whoever was in it was still alive. I knew how to do something now. So I got out the bed and said, "Freeze! Get your hands on the ground now!" The thing twisted its neck and looked at me,
That
and it
transition
drifted
right there was
blank
a
white
big
people.
issue. So with the transition here, is that basically the frame was zooming in on his face, but it was still in the transition, so it looks like that. Obviously, it looks like it zoomed in. You can see
The thing twisted its neck and looked at me, and it with those blank white pupils. And then the thing said in the sort of voice,
now two big things here. One, we never had an official photo at this point of what the thing looked like, or a picture of what he looked like. That wouldn't be until the next video, what it looks like and what it does and how what it actually shaped. So this is the closest thing at this point. I had to look this up. It was not easy. Many photos did not look. It looked almost good enough, but there was parts of that didn't line with the story. So this was the closest one. And second, the mouth thing with later was supposed to be like a shock open jaw, like in text form. That's what it was supposed to be, a text form way of saying, "Oh, like your mouth really wide open."
Suddenly, the thing jumped out of the house through the window with the body bag, heading towards the forest. I called down George to follow the thing through the forest. But on the way, we began seeing blood tracks all over the floor as we ran trying to find the monster, but eventually we lost it. But we found pages of the monster dropped, which has 4 more pages that we can use as evidence for something or whatever this thing was. But the worst part is that I lost those goddamn kids.
So this
I was
part,
trying to
I
understand
guess
to
it's
that
feeling
thing.
for the first time guilt of losing the two kids now. If you know the series, you know where those two kids end up and how it all goes together. And you learn really a lot of how Terrence's mental health, like as the series goes on and on, his mental health deteriorates a lot.
I promise I'll never let that happen again. I'm gonna make sure to find whoever this thing was. The pages I found were interesting. The second page said, "Me and him love having fun." So the kids playing with toys. And the third page said, "Me and him wanted to watch the night sky at this special spot," which could be where the monster thing was heading towards. Because in the next page, we went on our bikes, but I think the line was personally better. But what really got me on that page, they went to the floor. There's a dark figure howling from the trees. And the last page I got, it said, "But then my friend's bully Jack showed up, showing the same dark figure watching." Honestly, my head's
Foreshadowing. One of the most best parts about the Making of Lima Chapter series was hands down the storybook. Was one of the most best ways to illustrate the story of what happened to the kids and way of showing backstory to these characters. It was so good. At this point, not really, especially at this point when we left off at Jack bullying someone. I was like, yeah, it's kind of lame to end off on, but it's worth it later on down the line.
experience. What confuses me most is what that thing said. "Sorry, Terrence. Your
Amazing
services will
foreshadowing.
come later." How's it?
Literally amazing foreshadowing. That's really good foreshadowing. I'm just saying, like I know it looks like I'm sucking myself off, but I'm not.
Know my name, and what does it mean my services will come later? I honestly have no idea. But recently, I looked through old documents at the police station, and I found an old missing case from 1958 about several people going missing in the area of that house, and one of those people's names was Casey. Hey guys, if you liked the video, like and subscribe. This is the first time I've ever made a creepypasta before, so it's pretty
Hey, me,
interesting.
what's up?
I never really invested in this or made a channel about
So
this, but
when I was making this part, I tried to make a really deep voice for my outro. At this point, I was making it raspy, like "What's up, guys? Hey guys, me." No, but I was doing it really deep, trying to make it raspy. I didn't really get to this voice until a little bit later on. Around, I'll say, the Pale Man is around the point where I started getting my voice better at it.
I decided to try to make it, and I decided to make this called Alignment Chapters. This is the first part. There's going to be more parts in the future where it's going to get better, more interesting. I might check out other creepypasta stuff or analyze some stuff. Other than that, I thank you all for watching the video to the very end. And it means a lot to me. This is the first time I've ever done this. And I hope you all
Good night,
enjoyed the
everyone.
creepypasta part 1. As
Did I say
always,
everyone or
good night, everybody. Sweet dreams.
good night, everybody? Sweet
As
dreams.
always, good night, everybody. Sweet dreams.
Oh, so this outro is probably the worst outro we've had for this channel. If I'm being fully honest, like just so you know, at this point, I only done YouTubing for half a year, so my outros before this looked worse than this. So yeah, this outro is basically a static with some text I got from snipping tool and just put it on there. That's it. Yeah, definitely one of the worst intros, but it's the first one to mix into a video. Luckily, the music though has not really changed. It technically did recently when I made the new outro because it's a remix version, but the original OG one here would still last on, would still continue throughout the next videos all the way up until the end of 2023. It would still continue. It didn't stop. So the music we did here was actually from my old channel. It was this parody show, like parodying these fighting shows, and it had this outro. But we decided to slow it. I decided to slow it down and make it scary, and kind of feel those not nostalgic feelings. here comes the jump scare right away. Was the amazingness that was the first ever alignment chapter series. So, come the very long way, and that ends the first part to this character creator commentary. I said that wrong. So that marks the end for this commentary. I thank you all for watching this video. It really means a lot to me that you guys actually want to listen to my voice explaining what's going on in these videos, and I really appreciate you guys' feedback on this. As always, good night, everybody. Sweet dreams. I gotta go tell my dog to stop barking.